Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with our new fanfic, which is What If Naruto Got Neglected and Chose Love Over Family Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and please subscribe to the channel. It motivates me to upload more fanfic like these for you all. Now let's start the fanfic. Naruto. Uzumaki Konoha's biggest knuckleheaded shinobi was sitting in Ichiraku's ramen. In deep thought, it wasn't a surprising sight to see Naruto thinking to himself and spacing out after everything that had happened. People were surprised that he hadn't snapped and started killing random villagers even if he was only 12. It all started with him being called to Sarutoi's office one morning after waking up with no food or water and the landlord demanding his pair leave in which he disagreed on both ends. It was a horrible way to start a day, but it only got worse from there on. As soon as he arrived to the Kag tower, he was greeted with Sarutoi himself outside, which was very rare because Sarutoi never had his meetings outside his office, let alone his tower. It was also the way Sarutoi looked at him as he asked on the progress of his education in the ninja academy. He was sure he saw pity and guilt in those old eyes as he told the old man how great he was becoming. Then afterwards he was escorted into the tower by Sarutoi, who apologized profusely on what would transpire, although the little 12-year-old didn't know what to make of that. When they got to the office, Sarutobi told him to keep an open mind and he hoped that Nar could forgive him one day before opening the door and changing Naruto's life forever. When he walked into the office, he was greeted with the view of the Yandy, the yellow Flash, his true hero, sitting in the seat that would originally be Sarutoi's place. There was a woman with him too, with long red hair and two kids at her side. The first was a girl, looked no older than 3 years old and had short red hair like the woman. The other looked about his age and had a lot of similar physical qualities that matched his Oro no Jutsu. He was surprised to see his hero alive and well, but what happened next shattered his image in the Yandy. Naruto, I'm glad you're here, Minato said with that foxy grin that Naruto couldn't help but compare to his own. Look at you, so handsome already. You have your father's looks all right, the redhead woman gushed. Father. Naruto registered that word pretty quickly because as far as he knew he was an orphan and his parents died. That's right, son, I told you he'd take after me, didn't I? Kha, Minato said, looking at his wife. Tch, whatever, he still has my face, Kushina playfully jabbed, never noticing what a grave mistake their antics had made. Naruto, I'm sure you're familiar with the Yandy Hokage, and this is Uzumaki Namazi. They're your parents. Sarutoi finished with a grim expression. Naruto just stood there in shock for a long time. He didn't move nor look like he was breathing. That kind of behavior worried his parents. Are you okay? Kushina asked, looking concernedly at her son. Now I know what you must be thinking. How come it took us this long to come home? Well, with Jiraiya and Tsunade taking care of you, we just figured we'd wait a while and train Naruto a bit more. Why, I bet those two Sonin had been beating you to the ground with how serious they were when it came to training. Oh yes, I'd like you to meet you two sisters, Minato said gleefully as he indicated to the older sister holding the little reddy head. Is that Naruto Nisan? The little girl asked her older sister softly. Yes, Narumi-chan, that's Onisan, Naruto said warmly to her, rocking the little girl gently. She walked up to Nar and stood at a respectable distance and cleared her throat. Hello, Naruto Nisan, I'm Naruto and I'm your younger twin. This is Narumi and she's the youngest of us. I've been waiting to meet you for so long, Nisan, and I'm so honored, Naro said. She smiled brightly at her brother and bowed. Haha, they've always wanted to meet you ever since we told them they had an older brother. Gosh, it seemed like yesterday when the cue. That is enough, Minato. Sarutoi cut in. He understood Minato's excitement in seeing his son. After all the years he staged his death and left Naruto in the hands of Tsunade and Jiraiya, but Minato didn't know of what happened while he left Naruto at the mercy of vengeful villagers who despised the Kawi brat, nor did Naruto know about the Kawi altogether, and Minato was just digging himself a bigger grave with every word he spoke. What is it, Sarutoi? Minato asked. I told you to hear me out before you did anything, but did you listen? No, you have no idea what you've done. You have no idea what a grave mistake you and Kushina made, Sarutoi said with a frown. What are you talking about, Sarutoi? Kushina questioned confusedly. So you know them? Naruto asked, his bangs covering his eyes from everyone. Yes, Naruto, I know Minato and Kha, and I cannot begin to tell you how sorry I am for not informing you about them, Sarutoi said sadly. He wouldn't be surprised if Naruto Hated him hell right now, he hated himself. He only knew about Minato and Cash's disappearance. After the Kawi attack, he found a letter stating that Minato had trusted Gia and Tsunade to look after their child together since they were both the child's godparents. They would train Naruto on controlling the Sao's chakra under the knowledge that Naruto only had the soul. Minato sealed a part of the Kabi in both children, but it didn't work out. That way he couldn't say anything because it was an S-rank secret, sweetie. Kush-su, and I'm sure you know all about that sin. You're in the Ninja Academy if what I read is correct, Minato said, looking at a paper with a proud smile. Minato, we really need to talk. These are not happy times, and I'm sorry to say that things didn't go the way you hoped all those years ago, Sarutoi said, staring down at Naruto in sadness. Am I free to go, Sarutoi-sama? Naruto asked emotionlessly. But SOI, yes, you're free to go, Naruto, and I'm sorry, Sarutoi said, ignoring the furious look Kushina sent his way as Naruto left the office. Word got out about the fourth Hokage's return, and the village celebrated in honor of their hero even after it was revealed that he faked his own death. Minato also expressed his disappointment and fury at the villagers for what they did to his very own flesh and blood. A lot of villagers were confused on that, but Minato soon cleared that up with the shocking revelation of Naruto being his son. Some of the villagers already knew they were in big trouble. Kush went on a rampage, attacking any villager that was reported to have hurt her. SOI, she beat them so badly that she was forced by Minato himself to house arrest. He didn't like these people too, but he was the Hokage again. Kushin was angry at that, stating that he didn't care enough about his child, in which he replied that he would have gladly taken Naruto's place if they were there for him. In the beginning, both parents knew they messed up, and they even tried putting the blame on Jiraiya and Tsunade, who weren't present, but a heartbroken Naruto told them it was as much as their fault for trusting people that weren't family to Naruto's care, and they should have kept track on what was happening to him from the beginning instead of blindly trusting someone with their own child. The family knew they deserved nothing but hatred from the boy, but they were resolute to do whatever it took to get Naruto in their lives again. Order is up. Naruto _AAM said as she handed him his ramen. Her heart went out to the poor boy when she found out about Minato and Kushina being Naruto's parents. She was very angry at the two. She still was. How could someone just up and abandon their son after sealing the Kawi into him and expect everything to be okay when they showed their faces? How could they call themselves parents? She knew all about Naruto's hard life and the thought of Naruto's family out there in the world having a good time while he suffered beatings and near deaths made her want to attack Minato and Kushina any time they passed by, asking her if she had seen Naruto, in which she would always say no. She looked at Naruto and sighed. Sadly, it had only been a few days when all this chaos started, and he really looked broken. She could clearly see he wasn't focused on reality because he hadn't even made an attempt to touch his ramen, his favorite food. Naruto _R. You okay? AAM asked in worry. Don't worry about me, AAM-chan, I feel great, Naruto said with a forced smile. He felt like crap all this time. He had a family, and they never even made an effort to see him until a few days ago. He wanted to hate Sarutoi for not telling him about this, but to be honest, he couldn't. The old man had been there for him more times than he could count. That didn't mean he wasn't upset with the old guy. Though he didn't know what to feel about his family, his emotions would numb every time he thought of them. Minato and Kha had been doing their best to get involved in his life, but he would dodge them every time he saw them coming his way. He would even sleep in a ditch somewhere when they came and waited for him at his apartment. He didn't want to be near those two. He didn't like them. And he wasn't going to pretend like he did. That happy mask was long gone on. Nuko had also tried to seek him out, but he wasn't known for eluding the Anu for nothing. If he wanted to, he could disappear for weeks without anyone finding him. He was that good, but the only person that he couldn't escape anywhere he went was Narumi. The girl could find him no matter where he was in the village, and that freaked him out a lot. A 3-year-old that could track him down better than any Anu Black Ops agent ever could. She would always run away from home whenever she got a chance and hunt him down, much to his annoyance, since he had to carefully bring her back near her home. He was not going in that estate. Even if he was welcomed, he didn't hate the girl, but her parents could use her to get to him, and he shivered at the prospect. He was not ready to talk to them yet. The villagers also started to treat him better ever since they found out he was the Yami's son, but that only made him dislike them more because they put him through hell and just expected everything to be okay after What they did. It had been 5 days when all of this had started and he didn't know what to think. Okay, but I'm here if you need me. AAM said she wasn't convinced in the least by his answer, and her worries only increased upon seeing bags under his eyes. God, he looked terrible. Nissan, oh crap, he forgot about Narumi and her tracking ability. He was going to make a run for it when something bumped and clung to his feet. Sigh, how many times have I told you to stop calling me that? Narumi, Naruto said. Up, Narumi said gleefully, putting her hands up in the air so he could hold her. Naruto sighed again but picked the little girl up and put her on his lap. He just couldn't hate Narumi. She was way too young to be involved in anything and she was just too adorable. Why are you here, Narumi? Naruto asked, already knowing the answer for Nissan. Narumi said cheerfully, how did you get out this time? Naruto asked as he rolled his eyes. Those babysitters really sucked when it came to looking after the little girl. Babysitters say I'm a tomato. Narumi pouted. She didn't know many things but she knew what a tomato was and she didn't like tomatoes. That wasn't the answer he asked for, but he allowed a g of a smile at her antics. Want some ramen? Naruto asked and watched as Narumi's eyes lit up in curiosity. Want? Narumi asked. Yeah, Naruto said and was bonked on the head by a yam who heard their conversation. Naruto _ don't be a baka. Narumi's just a little baby, she can't have ramen. AAM scolded the 12-year-old. Ouch. Okay, Naruto said as he rubbed his head. He saw Rumi trying to get a taste of the ramen on the counter and quickly stopped her. There you are, I've been looking everywhere for you, Naruto said as she huffed. Naruto en-chan. Narumi shouted happily. Naruto froze. He just knew this would happen sooner or later. He looked behind him and sighed in relief as we saw Naruto wasn't with anyone else. How many times have I told you to stop running out the house? Naruto scolded as she made her way inside and saw Narumi sitting on her big brother's lap. It was a touching scene and it only made her long for something similar with her brother. Naruto addressed emotionlessly Nissan. Naruto greeted back. She didn't care when he looked at her in annoyance. Don't call me that, Naruto said irritably. I'll never stop calling you my Nissan. Naruto said seriously. She meant it too. She would keep calling him her brother until her last breath. Tch, I take it you're here for her, Naruto said, indicating to a happy Narumi hopping on his lap and looking around curiously. I was, but since I can see she's in good hands, I'll settle for getting some ramen. Naruto said. She made her way and sat next to an annoyed Naruto who shifted his seat so he had a bigger distance away from her, but she didn't care. She desperately wanted her brother back and she would endure his worst if it meant obtaining his love. What kind of ramen will you have? Naruko-chan AAM asked. Chirped. She didn't like Naruto in the beginning, but that all changed when Naruto came to this place looking for Naruto. AAM was so furious with Naruto's family that she called Naruto to the back room of the restaurant and proceeded to take out her anger on the girl by shouting at her and calling her horrible things. Naruto took it all with tears and never said any back. When AAM had finished shouting, she was treated to a sobbing blonde on her hands and knees begging for forgiveness. Naruto told her everything from her parents' abandonment of their son to her finding out she had a brother at the age of 7 and trying on many occasions to convince her parents on seeing him, but to no avail. She even tried running away to find Naruto herself, but she easily got lost and was treated to scolding from both parents when they found her. As AAM heard this, she too also cried and apologized for what she said, but Naruto said she deserved it and understood. They bonded and AAM convinced her to not give up on her brother. Naruto thanked her for her support with a bittersweet smile. AAM was convinced that they could become a loving brother and sister if they could work out their differences. Miso please, Naruto said with a smile and then looked at her brother with longing. What? Naruto asked in irritation, noticing Naruto staring at him for far too long. Nothing. How are you, Nissan? Naruto asked awkwardly. None of your business, Naruto replied. AAM frowned. Nar had the right to be angry, but taking it out on the girl who tried her best to be there for him was a bit much in her opinion. She decided not to voice anything. However, okay, Nuko said as her shoulders slumped. They ate in silence, well except for Narumi, who kept screaming, what is that? Add anything new to her. When they were finished, Naruto felt it was time to leave. She would earn his forgiveness another day because Narumi needed to sleep and Naruto really looked like he didn't want her near him. It was nice spending time with Eunice-san, Nuko said as she took a tired Narumi from Naruto. Whatever, you should tell your parents that those babysitters are horrible in looking after Narumi. Naruto Said they're your parents too, you know, Naruto said with a frown. Do. Sai, thanks for the advice. Don't forget tomorrow is team placement in the academy. We love you, Nissan, Naruto said sadly and then left for the Namazi estate. I know you're upset, Naruto _, and you have the right to be, but please don't let this change who you are. Aam said. What do you mean, Aam chan? Naruto asked the Naruto _, I know wouldn't let this stop him. You never give up in what you believe in and you only strive to help anyone you can, but there was always one thing that made you different from everyone in this village, Aam said as she took one of Naruto's hands in hers. What made me different? Nar asked curiously. Even after everything the villagers did to you, the torture, the beatings, the near deaths, you never resulted to hate them. After everything you've been through, you never hated the people in this village. You're not like anyone else, Naruto. You're the light that counters the darkness. You are the good that defeats evil. You're not someone who hates someone else like this, and I pray that day never comes. Hatred is a horrible emotion that could destroy someone, and that's the last thing I want for you, Naruto _. I'm not saying that you should forgive your family, but please don't stick to hating them. Ay said he told her all about his life when she forced it out of him. He was sad that day, and she wanted to comfort him in any way possible, so she settled into hearing his whole story even if she knew most of it. From rumors going around, she knew she should heed her own words, but she wasn't someone like Naruto, and she wasn't going to pretend to be. I have to go home, Ayam-chan, Naruto said as he made his way out. Aam looked on sadly. Maybe it was hopeless to try and keep Naruto on the straight and narrow after everything he had been through. All that suffering would have changed any other man, but she knew Naruto was different. Maybe she was wrong. She was surprised when Naruto turned and looked at her with a small smile. Thanks, he said softly, and Aam couldn't stop the grin that came to her face even if she wanted to. Okay, after long deliberation, I have decided on the Jan that will be assigned to the passing Genin. Minato said Team 1 will consist of ... Since there had to be changes because of the addition of my daughter to the roster, I have decided that Team 7 will consist of Sasuke, Uchiha, Sakura, Haruno, Naruto, Uzumaki, Namazi, and Naruto. Uzumaki, Namazi with Kakashi. I want to be in that squad, Kushina said suddenly as she appeared in the room holding papers. She had been helping Minato with his paperwork ever since he came back to being Hokage, and it left her no time for her children. She desperately wanted to mend the shattered bond she had with her son. She would never stop thinking of herself as a horrible mother until she did. This was the biggest opportunity she had, because now she could see Naruto all the time without him hiding from her. She felt so disgusted with herself for being so careless when it came to her baby. If Gia and Tsunade ever showed their faces here, she would make sure to make them suffer, but right now Naruto was more important. She will be there for him, and no one was going to stop her, not even her husband Kush-sama. I've already been picked. Kakashi was cut off with a glare, and I should care why I want to be on that team, Kushina said, looking at Minato seriously. No one even thought of opposing, and she was glad for that. Kushina, Kakashi was handpicked. Minato was cut off with Kash's chakra flaring. I don't care if Kami herself was chosen. I want to be on that squad now, Kushina shouted, and everyone knew there was no stopping her. Besides, she also had the right to request a squad since she was a qualified Jan. The first got a headache. Shikaku said he understood why Kha was doing this when she was pregnant with the twins. She had always expressed her deep love for them before they were even born. So to find out that her own son had a horrible life growing up must have been a huge blow to the loving woman. This was so troublesome. He was going to be Janine today. That's the first thought that came to his mind, and he couldn't be any happier. He'd have missions that would take him out of this village and away from his parents. God, he didn't like those people. He went through hell because of their neglect, and now they wanted to be a part of his life. After everything he had to endure because of them, he would not hate. He would go to the point of no return, because Aam was like a sister to him, and she was knowledgeable when it called for it, so he would listen to what she told him and not hate his family. That did not mean we was going to forgive them. No way. It did not mean he liked them either. Hell to the no, they weren't parents for what they did, and he easily saw Naruto as the favorite that was chosen to live a good life while he suffered at the hands of the villagers. She had the opportunity to know what it was like to have a family, what it was like to be loved and comforted when she needed it, while he had none of those things, well, except for Gigi and Aruka. But they still came a bit late into his childhood. Naruto was the favorite, not That's why they left him to rot, so he didn't like her much either. He decided to stop dwelling too much on these unwanted thoughts and look at the bright side of things he was going to be. Genin, he beat the crap out of Mizuki to earn it, and now he was one step closer of his lifelong dream of becoming Hokage. Minato wasn't his hero anymore after everything. Naruto was surprised that he didn't despise the man. He was about to do his morning routine when a knock on the door stopped him. He got out of his bedroom and made his way to the entrance and opened it to see none other than Aam herself on the other side, which was weird because she rarely visited his place. Hey Yam-chan, Naruto greeted enthusiastically. He was just too happy on the prospect of being a ninja and missions to care about anything else. Ah. Look at you, Naruto _ you already have your H8 on and you look so cute. Aam. Gushed, I'm not cute, I'm manly, Naruto said as he ed and puffed his chest. Sure. Whatever you say, I am, giggled and then smiled warmly at him. He deserved to be a shinobi. He always trained himself to exhaustion and now it was paying off. While many others had tutors, he always trained alone, and that made her frown. Naruto _ I really need to talk to you if it's okay right now, Aam said. Sure. Aam-chan, what is it? Naruto asked curiously. It's about Naruto. Okay everybody, I want you to settle down, Iruka said to the excited academy graduates who were busy chatting amongst themselves. He looked around and noticed that Naruto hadn't arrived yet. He would have just gone ahead and started classes, but he decided to wait a little longer for the boy who always dreamed of being Hokage. It seemed just yesterday when you were just a hopeless knucklehead. Naruto, Iruka thought and smiled fondly. Naruto had really grown into an exceptional person from his early days in the academy. Iruka knew Naruto struggled in the beginning because he had no one else to teach him, and even if Iruka would pitch in here and there to educate the boy, other teachers would sabotage or teach Naruto the wrong things that made his blood boil. You know what else made his blood boil? Naruto's parents, not siblings but parents. He wasn't at all angry at Naruto's siblings because he knew they couldn't have a say in the abandonment of Naruto. No child could ever be that cruel, and from what he heard, Naruto would often be seen with his baby sister, both of his sisters yesterday eating food together. If the information he got from Tui was correct, that was proof enough to Iruka that Naruto's sisters wanted to be with their brother, so how could Minato and Kushina as parents leave their own child like that? Their blood, it was inexcusable. They didn't have the right to call themselves parents. After that, Iruka flopped in his seat and opened a book as he tried to drown out the chitter chatter of his former students. Just give him a few more minutes before you start the speech, Iruka thought. Hello, is this seat taken? Naruto asked, staring down at a shy Hyuga girl. If those eyes were anything to go by, no, the girl stuttered and looked away. Hey Nuko, come sit with us, Ino screamed to the girl. Nuko made no indication that she even heard Ino. She knew all their names because her father told her on the possible candidates of people who she will be teamed up with, and she hoped it wasn't any of those group of girls. She had been in this academy for 5 days in which Naruto was absent, and she had a definite picture on who acts like what he or she knew. Their kind fangirls. She hated girls who disgraced themselves as kunoichi just for an idiot's attention. That idiot being the Ucha Sasuke Uchiha. She only had one word when it came to that guy, Yuru. He was an egotistical attention seeker who relished the spotlight and loved to show off, but what's worse was he was a brooder. She didn't like him at all, and ever since she joined the academy she had become the most popular girl in male opinion, much to the chagrin of all those fangirls in herself she had seen Sass checking her out a number of times, in which she would always feel filthy when she caught those onks' eyes looking at her like she was a naked target for his pleasure. He wasn't the only boy doing that, but he was the most noticeable since he didn't seem ashamed of his tactics. Yuru, of all the people around here, she noticed Hinata a lot. The girl was so shy that no one would even make an effort in talking to her. There was also the days when Naruto was absent, when she saw Hinata looking at the door as if she was waiting for someone and then sighing in disappointment when Iruka would mark Naruto as absent from the roster. The team placement had to be postponed because of the surprising arrival of her father, which was 6 days ago, but today was the day she will be included in a team, and Naruto had no choice but to be present or miss out. Thank you, Nuko said. Hinata just nodded her head with her eyes downcast. She wasn't expecting anything from Naruto's sister sitting next to her, but was surprised when the blonde initiated Conversation you well you already know my name and I know yours. I was wondering if you'd like to be friends. I see sometimes you're alone and I'm alone too. So Naruto trailed off awkwardly. She knew how to make friends but she didn't exactly know how to interact with a shy girl without possibly saying something offensive. It was easier talking to loud girls who loved to chat because they were more of an open book than a quiet person, but she would not let that stop her. She genuinely wanted to be Hannah's friend. You want to be BF friends with me? Hinata stuttered, looking anywhere but the girl, trying in vain to hide the blush on her face. Yeah, if that's okay with you, Naruto said. She was rewarded with Hinata nodding her head, albeit crazily. Hinata couldn't say anything. She was friends with Nuko, her crush's sister. She never expected that to happen. She didn't even have friends since no one could stand her shyness. She didn't know what to make of it, so she settled for looking in front of her and keeping quiet. Cool, Naruto said sweetly, and allowed herself some time to think with the silence. Well, I gave him time, maybe he isn't coming, Iruka muttered and was about to start his speech when he was stopped. Hey, Iruka-sensei, Naruto greeted cheerfully as he made his way into the class. Iruka looked at Naruto and was surprised to see genuine happiness on that face. He knew long ago about the mask Naruto would always put on as a defense mechanism, but today that mask wasn't present. He looked really happy. Iruka smiled. Even after all the crap that's been dumped on him, Naruto always found a way to persevere, the teacher quickly schooled his face into that of annoyance. Naruto, you're late. What kind of ninja will you be if you kept skipping missions like you did classes? Iruka said, using his big-headed jutsu. I'm going to be Hokage, just wait and see, Naruto said in glee. What are you even doing here? Didn't you fail the exam? Shikamaru asked. Ha, if failed, then how come I got this? Naruto said, indicating to his forehead. Protector, maybe because the Hokage gave you special treatment since you're his son. Kaba sneered. Quote, don't you ever put me with that man again. Dog breath. I earned this by myself through blood, sweat and tears, Naruto said angrily, glaring at Kba. How? Shikamaru asked. By beating Mizuki, who was discovered to be a traitor to the Leaf. Iruka answered, looking at Naruto with pride. He beat a Chunin. Choji asked, surprised. Hell, everyone was except for Naruto. All right, enough of that, take a seat, Naruto, so I can start my speech. Iruka said, what? I don't want to sleep because of your speech. Naruto pouted. You little brat, I'll have you know my speeches are interested to listen to, Iruka said, and grabbed Naruto by the collar and dragged him to his seat. All the while the whole class laughed. Iruka looked around, then quickly squeezed Naruto's shoulder gently to get the young blonde's attention. I'm proud of you, Naruto, Iruka said softly, smiling at Naruto. Thank you, Iruka-sensei, Naruto said, smiling back. Iruka nodded, then made his way back and began his boring speech. Naruto looked around and saw Naruto sitting next to the weird girl. It was Hinata, right? He made his way to them and cleared his throat. Hey, can we talk? Naruto said seriously, gazing at a surprised Naruto. Sure, Nissan, anything you want, Naruto said in surprise. She didn't expect him to come to her. Hell, she expected him to shun her, but the way he was looking at her made her extremely nervous. He took a seat next to her and started. I don't hate you, Naruto said after a pause. What? Naruto asked, confused. This morning before I came here, AAM came to my place. She told me what you told her, Naruto said, looking at a very nervous Naruto. And what do you think? Naruto asked. I appreciate you trying to be there for me when you found out about me. I can honestly say that I can't hate you, but I can't forgive you either, not yet. I need time, Naruto said, hoping he wouldn't have to explain himself further. What about Chuan and Kassen? Naruto asked. Don't talk to me about them, it will take time to forgive you, but they are a different story. I don't want to talk about them, Naruto hissed the last part in disdain. Nuko took his hand and put it to where her heart was. Take all the time you need, Nissan, Naruto said honestly. She would do whatever it took to earn his forgiveness, but it seemed the subject of their parents was taboo for now. Thanks. Could you let go now? Naruto sputtered with a blush. She looked down and realized that she put Naruto's hand on one of her still developing breasts, but it was too late. Naruto, baka, you pervert. Sakura shrieked. I'm not a pervert, Naruto shouted, but he had forgotten to remove his hand away from Nuko. That infuriated some girls as well as guys. Get him some, fangirls shouted. Geez, didn't know the guy was into stuff like that, Kaba muttered with a perverted giggle, visualizing the Uzumaki Namazi family fulfilling their incestuous desires. Enough, Iruka screamed when he realized no one was listening to his speech, all because of the regular troublemaker Naruto. Everyone quickly scrambled to their seats to avoid Ara's wrath. Tch, if you were still my students. All right, it's time to put you into your teams. Team 8 will consist of KBA and Asuka Shoabame and Hinata Hyuga. Your JN and Sensei will be Kyui Iruka. Said W or N not I int the S same Tay. Team Hinata stuttered in sadness. It's okay, we just have to make sure we keep in contact, right? Naruto asked with a smile. All right, Hinata gave a small smile in return. Team 9 is still in circulation. Iruka said, I just hope I end up with Sassen, but if I ended up with Naruto that wouldn't be so bad, Ino said with a faraway look. What the hell? Ino pig. Naruto Baka Sakura asked the son of the Hokage who beat a Chunin. Yep. That's the one, Ino said with a dreamy sigh. Team 10 will consist of Ino, Yamanaka, Choi Akamaiki and Shika. What gez Ino, you don't have to scream. Troublesome. Shikamaru lazily said, there has to be a mistake, Iruka sensei. Please tell me there was a mistake. These two are lazy good for nothing. I can't be on a team with them, Ino ranted. Gee thanks, Shikamaru said, rolling his eyes. The decisions are final, Ino. Your sensei is Asuma Sarut. Toy. Iruka finished peering at the sulking platinum blonde sensei. Why did you skip Team 7? Sakura asked and then noticed that Naruto, Sake, Naruko and herself were the only ones left who hadn't been picked. While because of a lot of changes, Iruka said, rubbing his head. Changes? Sakura asked. Yeah, there was a hot debate on this team in particular. After all that, it was decided that Team 7 will consist of Sakura, Haruno, Naruto, Uzumaki, Namazi. It's just Uzumaki, that's what I grew up with and that's what I'm sticking to. Yes, I'm on a team with Sakura. A-chan. Naruto cheered. No, Sakura wailed in despair. Naruto, Uzumaki. Sasha Ye sass _ eat it pig. A cheered, staring brazenly at a fuming Ino. Will you let me finish? Sasuke, Uchiha and Naruko, Uzumaki, Namazi. Iruka finally finished. Naruto and Naruko looked at each other. Naruko smiled at him and Naruto nodded his head. They weren't that close yet, but at least they had an understanding. Your JN and sensei will be Kushina Uzu. Bang, what the hell, man, no way, I don't want to be in the same team as that woman. Naruto shouted. What the hell is wrong with you kids? Will you ever let me finish? Iruka fumed. I don't want to be near her, you hear me? Naruto shouted angrily. The decisions are final, Naruto. If you ever want to be Hokage, then you have to suck it up. Part of being a shinobi is doing things that you normally wouldn't like. Iruka said he didn't like this either. In fact, he hated doing this, but the Hokage's word is law, so he couldn't change it. That didn't stop him from voicing his disagreement to Kha, who would hear none of it, but hopefully there would be a silver lining to what he said next. Naruto just sulked in his seat. His life was over. The world was ending. Why did Kami hate him? He never hurt anybody, even if they hurt him. This was so horrible. But since there was an extra addition to the roster, then another sensei was assigned to your team. Your second John and sensei is Kakashi Hatake, Iruka said. What? That's it? That doesn't change anything. Arg. Naruto flopped in his seat. He felt like he was dying. I'm sorry, Naruto, but please just bear with it. If I could, then I would change this, but I have no power over what's going on, Iruka said sadly. Naruto just muttered under his breath and looked away in defeat. All the JN had arrived and took their respective teams, and the only people left was Team 7. Naruto was upset, really upset. No matter what he did, Minato and Kushina always found a way to screw with his life. He didn't want to be near them. Why couldn't they get that they were not his parents, so they should stop thinking themselves as such? He looked around and saw that everyone was bored. Sakura kept trying to start a conversation with Sasuke. Stared at Naruto and Naruto just glared at the Uchi. Naruto got an idea and went to the front door. He put the board eraser on top of the door frame. He chuckled quietly and then made his way back to his seat. Nissan, Naro asked confusedly. When she noticed what he did, Naruto chuckled idly. The door opened and in walked the cheerful Kushina Uzumaki Namazi. Hey guys, I want you to meet me. Her statement was cut off with the eraser landing on her face. She coughed a bit and then looked around for the culprit. Who did that? Kushina asked but received no answer. She knew it was Naruto. Her background check on her son was very horrific, to put it lightly, but it helped her understand what he had been through. She had never cried so hard in her entire life. Sigh. I want you guys to meet me at the roof, cuz Ina said then. Shunshin out of the room. They all made their way to the roof and saw Khan Kakashi waiting for them. Yo, Kakashi grated with a wave. Okay, sit down today. We're going to get to know each other, Kushina said as the children took their seats. We want you guys to introduce Yourselves, Kakashi said. Shouldn't you guys introduce yourselves first so we know how to? Sakura suggested, then looked at Sake, who was still looking at Naruto. Okay, then I'll start. My name's is Kakashi Hatake. My likes do not concern you, my dislike are none of your business, and my hobbies are classified. Kakashi said and received passive looks from everyone. I'll show you how it's done. My name is Kushina Uzumaki Namazi. My likes are reading, training, and all my children. My dislikes are perverts, criminals, and anyone who would dare harm my babies. My dream is spending more time with my whole family, Kushina said, smiling motherly towards Naruto, but received a frown from said blonde. Okay, now it's your turn, Kakashi said to the kids. He noticed Kushina deflate a little. My name is Sakura Haruno. I love reading in a certain someone. I dislike Naruto. My dream is to be with a certain someone and make a family together, Sakura said. Everyone rolled their eyes at her, even Kushina, since it was plain obvious who Sakura was talking about. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. My likes are Ramen Aam-chan and Iruka Sensei. My dislikes are certain people. My dream is to become the best Hokage that ever lived. Naruto cheered at the last part. He meant it too. He will be okay, and he didn't need any help from his family to achieve his dream. Kushina looked down sadly when she heard him say that he disliked certain people. No matter how many times she went by it, she couldn't find an excuse for what she did to him, and there was nothing she could say to change his mind. She wouldn't give up, though. She would work until her last breath to earn his forgiveness, and having him in her team would at least allow her a start. My name is Sasuke Uch. My likes and dislike are none of your business. In my dream, no, my goal is to kill a certain someone and revive my clan, he said, the last one staring shamelessly at Naro, which didn't go unnoticed by the mother, who gave a disapproving frown. My name is Naruko Uzumaki Namazi. My likes are San Kasen Narumi-chan and Nissan. My dislikes are Uchiha Yus. My dream is to be known as the best kunoichi that ever lived. Nuko said, well, now that we got that out of the way, I'll let you know that tomorrow you guys will be having a test to see if you're ready to be real shinobi, Kakashi said, and waited for someone to scream, but we already did the test. He was surprised when they all kept quiet. Will the test involve the two of you? Sakura finally asked. Well, after discussing things, Kush-sama and I decided that I will be the only one testing you. Don't eat any breakfast or you'll throw up tomorrow, Kakashi said as he shunning out of there. Get some rest, guys, because you'll need it tomorrow. I'll see you at home, Naro, and I would like to talk to you, Naruto, before you leave, Kha said the last part to a retreating Naruto, who silently cursed a little too loudly. Everyone left, and now it was just Kushina and Naruto. Hello, SOI. Kushina said, what can I do for you, Kush-sama? Naruto asked, trying to dull his anger but failing miserably. SOI, please don't call me that. I'm so sore. Save it. I don't want your apology, and let me get one thing clear. I am only in your team by force and nothing else. Don't for one second think that everything's okay between us. You left me, that's all. The reason I need the reason I haven't quit as soon as I heard your name is because I have a dream that no one will stop me from achieving. I don't hate you, but I don't like you either. Just keep your distance and I'll keep mine, Kush-sama, Naruto said with finality, and left the heartbroken mother to her thoughts. Kha would not cry even as the tears gathered in her eyes. She didn't deserve to cry. She didn't deserve sympathy. She didn't deserve to be called a mother, a parent, after one of her children suffered so badly. She did deserve every word he said to her, though, and she knew it wasn't going to be easy getting her son back. But Kushina refused to live a life without him. He was her son, her SOI, and it was time she took responsibility for her idiotic and careless mistakes. She looked through all the records of people Naruto befriended in his life and found that Iruka really stood out. She apologized to Iruka, who was very angry at her, and Minato rightfully so, about what she did to her son, and thanked him for being there for Naruto. The only thing Iruka told her was that he would only forgive her when Nar did, and she understood that. She decided to think of ideas to show Naruto that she truly did love him, and she truly felt regretful for what happened. As she made her way home, Kakashi mentally sighed. This team was hopeless, absolutely meaningless. This wasn't even a team, just some random Janine performing individually and horribly at that fact. When he was recommended by the council to Sarutoy, he was excited to teach the UCHA prodigy because they both shared something that no one else in Konoha did. The Sharingan. It wasn't as if he forgot about his other students as well, but he wanted to focus on grooming Sake into an elite shinobi and use the team as support for the Uchiha's benefit. It Couldn't be called favoritism if all members of the team were included now, could it? Well, that was all before his sensei had showed up, prompting the postponement of the placements. He told everyone of his stage death in leaving Naruto to the trust of Gia Tsunade and the village as well, who all ended up stabbing the Namazi in the back. Minato was really disappointed in Kakashi as well. Kushina flat out disliked him, now going so far as to call Kakashi a disgrace to the shinobi code when he chose to ignore Nut's plight. Kakashi also voiced his disagreement to that, calling Minato and Kushina hypocrites for something like that, which he easily admit now was a huge mistake. First off, Minato and Kushina didn't leave Naruto with just some random stranger. They left him with people they considered family, and even though it was a terrible thing to do to a child, especially considering a child needed parent figures to grow and mature, they left Naruto with people that they thought could qualify as parental figures. In Naruto's upbringing, Kakashi could see it, Naruto grown and trained by the two legendary Sonin that would be every child's and parent's dream, and he could see why Minato and Kino would choose not to visit until now, since Naruto would be safe with Tsunade and Gia, teaching him their skills and techniques, grooming him to be a legendary prodigy, telling him about his parents since the S-rank secret didn't apply to them. But the two Sonin just left the kid high and dry without a care in the world, and Kakashi was only left with questions. Why did Minato and Kushina leave Naruto in the first place? Why did Jiraiya and Tsunade leave the kid as well? He already knew it couldn't be revealed to anyone of who Naruto's parents were, because that would put Naruto in greater danger with people who might hate Minato taking their anger out on Naruto. So why leave him? Kakashi couldn't come up with anything. He looked at Naruto, who was tied to a pole, and then looked at his Gen and team, who had lunch ready to be eaten, and decided to make his exit. I'll be back in a bit. You will stay there, Naruto, and all of you are not to feed him, understood? Kakashi asked and received nods from three heads in something that suspiciously sounded like grumbled curses from the blonde knucklehead. He made his way to some nearby trees and bushes and met with Kina, who was using the environment to her advantage and concealing herself from the view of the Janine squad just as discussed. How did they do? Kushina asked seriously as she stared at her son, who was tied to a pole. She knew they did terribly. Hell, she watched the whole test and couldn't hide the bitter disappointment and guilt in watching Naruto just charge into battle without a strategy or plan and swing wild punches that would never hit the intended target. Kami, she failed so miserably as a mother. Naruto didn't even seem like a ninja, just a normal boy who had to resort to street fighting to cover for lack of skill set. He would get himself killed if he went on missions, and that was one thing that filled her with so much dread that she had to control her stomach every time that thought crossed her mind. She couldn't understand this, though she read from reports that he beat Mizuki a Chunin using the cage bunch in no jutsu. No other kid could do that yet, so how on earth could he be this terrible? In all honesty, they failed horribly, Kakashi said indifferently. He didn't really care if this team passed or failed, really, because the council would demand him to be put with Sake, whether in another team or alone. Just like that, he would teach the UCH name their weaknesses. Kushina ordered. She didn't like Kakashi at all right now. He chose to be a lazy good for nothing prick while Naruto suffered. He was trash in her book. No matter what he said, she knew she was no better, but she was determined to fix things at all costs with her son. Sakura does have book smarts, but she lacks any real form of skill when comes to jutsu. She easily fell for a simple genjutsu because she was so fixated on Sake to focus on the task at hand. Sas could be considered a prodigy when it comes to his skill set, as I read in reports, but he has a loner attitude. He chooses to fight battles by himself instead of relying on his teammates for help and thinking of them as nuisances instead of allies. Naruto is by far the worst student I have ever tested. He has no strategy or plan when it comes to battles. He is one track minded, and that is a huge weakness. He has basically no skill set whatsoever, and he puts himself in danger because he is basically an open book, and enemies can read his movements quite easily and kill him in the process. Naruto by far is the best member of the squad. She has a variety of skills in jutsu at her arsenal, including that little Renin that nearly got me a number of times. She is fast and very knowledgeable in ninjutsu, and Tatu, I have to commend you for teaching her. She even figured out the true reason for the test, that it wasn't about getting the bells alone but together as a team, but the other members are not listening, Kakashi surmised in honesty. I don't understand though. Naruto beat a Chunin using cage bunions. How could he be this terrible if he was able to do that? Kushina asked curiously. I Would sum up his WI to sheer perseverance and dumb luck, especially considering he was the worst performer in the academy, even being labeled as the dead last. Kakashi said, Kami dead last? Kushina asked, shocked at such a thing. Not only did the adults hurt her SOI but kids as well. She really wanted a punching bag. Council member right about now. He failed the academy 3 times and performed terribly in every class he had. Kakashi said, oh SOI. Kushina breathed out. This was too much to take in. The depths of Naruto's suffering never ceased to amaze and disgust her. This was not going to stand. Minato was going to do something about this, and she knew exactly where he should start. The village council. Those disgusting monsters were going to get what was coming to them, and from there Minato will make this village pay for what they did to her. SOI. She would make sure of that. It was unfortunate, Kakashi said lazily, and received a glare from the mother. How would you rate them? Kushina asked in irritation. He has the gall to say that, and yet he did nothing. She wanted to strangle him. Sakura isn't gen and level, but she has a bit of promise. Sake would be low to mid genin. Naruto would be high genin to low chunin. Naruto is not ready to be a shinobi, Kakashi said. Don't run to conclusion about my son. Kushina spat. Kakashi was getting on her last nerve. Just my opinion, Cash-sama, Kakashi said with an EY smile. Right, Kushina said, quote, You do realize I really have to fail them now since they hadn't figured out the true meaning to the test, Kakashi said. Looking at the Janine team, he was about to move when a hand landed on his chest and prevented him from doing so. Not yet, give them time, Kushina said, preventing Kakashi from going anywhere. But Kush-sama, I said give them time, and I mean it. Hake, Kush said seriously. They had to pass, they just had to. She believed in them no matter how badly they did, quote, Okay, so since I'll be here a while longer, I was wondering if you could clear something for me, Kakashi said. And what do you want cleared? Kushina asked. Why did you leave Naruto? Kakashi got straight to the point, quote, I didn't want to at first. I wanted to take him with us so we could train him in using our styles and possibly teach him in suppressing the Kawi soul, but things didn't work out that way, Kha said sadly. She would regret that decision till the day she died. May I ask why? Kakashi inquired. If you remember correctly, there was a masked man who attacked the village and freed the Kabi to destroy Konoha. I was heavily fatigued from giving birth to Naruto and Naruto. To stop him, the Kawi went on a rampage. We fought tooth and nail to protect our babies and took the worst from the Bu when it tried attacking our children, so Minato had no choice but to seal the Kawi into our children. Although I refused this, he sealed the yin and yang chakra into Naruto. Naruto was given the soul of the fox. Minato survived the sealing process. Although he was barely alive, Minato told me that in order for the Kawi to be freed, then you had to have both children together to extract it, because the soul and chakra need to be together as one in order to exist. It didn't matter what type of the Bu chakra it was, so in order to make sure that didn't happen, Minato agreed with Jiraiya and Tsunade, who healed us from our fatal wounds, to look after Naruto and make sure he grew into a strong and capable shinobi, while we did the same to Naruto. Both children needed to be as far away as possible from each other in case that man returned and wanted the Kabi. We were to return to Konoha when we were sure that things were all right and safe for Naruto to see us. Gia and Tsunade agreed to it, and I honestly thought that they would keep to their word, but imagined my utter shock when I found out my son grew up alone, abandoned, unloved, and untrained. It makes a mother think on what kind of a filthy human being she is in allowing this to happen, Kushina said in self-loathing. She didn't care that Kakashi heard all this. He could really keep a secret when it called for it, but it didn't change her view of him. You shouldn't put the blame on yourself. Sometimes we all make mistakes, Kakashi said. No, I need to blame myself so I don't forget what I'm trying to achieve. A connection with my entire family, Kushina said. It made her feel horrible on the inside, all the self-hatred, but she would endure it until Naruto forgave her. What about Jiraiya and Tsunade? Kakashi asked, quote, Let's just say I better not find them before anyone else does, Kushina said venomously. They will deserve nothing but pain for betraying Minato and her like this, right? Well, I guess we should watch the kids, Kakashi suggested. Fine with me, Kha said, and then looked at her. Janine candidates arg freaking ropes, Naruto said as he struggled on the pole. Nissan, stop it, you have to face the punishment, Naruto said. She didn't like it, but it had to be done. So Naruto, I've noticed you didn't seem interested in any of those other guys in our class, but you always looked my way from time to time, Sake said. Only because I had to make sure you weren't trying anything. Naruto spat His name innate. I know you like me. I have to admit I find you attractive, so how about I give you chance, Sass said with confidence. TTIM, Naruto said then. Decided to ignore him altogether and focus on her brother Sasuke. Was wondering. You're annoying, Sass emphasized the last word because it seemed like he had to keep repeating himself to the pink-haired fangirl. Sakura pouted. How the hell could he not notice her? But Nuko, who looked like that stupid perverted jutsu Naruto used, it didn't make any sense. Nissan stopped struggling and listen, all of you, Naruto said. Seriously, what? Naruto asked in annoyance. Don't you guys get it? This test wasn't about getting the bells alone. Think about it. Kakashi as a Janin and technically were not Janine yet. It would be impossible to get the bells alone even together, which was exactly the point of the test. Naruto said. I don't get it. Naruto said confusedly. Baka, she's saying that we were supposed to go after Kakashi together. Sakura said she was annoyed with this idiot and she didn't appreciate being shown up on her intelligence by Naruto's female twin. TCH, yeah right, you're hot, but I don't think you're right. Sake said. Wow, you really are. I believe you, Naruto said confidently. It's not just enough for you to believe it, Nissan, we all have to. Naruto said, staring at the other two teammates. And what's in it for me if I believe you? Sass asked with a smirk. Nothing from me, that's for sure, Naruto said seriously. She can never admit a time when she disliked someone so greatly as the Uchi. Then you and I can be together, Sake flirted. That's gross, Naruto shouted in disgust as he glared at the Uchi. What's it to you, Dobi? Sake asked in annoyance. Listen very carefully, Sass, I don't like you and I'll never like you. You disgust me and I can't believe that you actually think that I would even give us a chance. You're pathetic in my eyes and that notion won't change anytime soon, so you better watch yourself before I lose my patience and rip your spine clean from your back without any effort, Naruto said as she glared murderously at Sake. Listen here, you underscore. Don't talk to us. I believe you. Sake cut off Sakura as rant. He didn't care what Naruto said. He wanted her and would not stop until he got her and revived his clan. She wasn't like any other girl he ever met. She was powerful, beautiful, even if she did look like Naruto's auric no jutsu, and that's perfect wife material in his eyes. Believe what exactly? Naruto asked in confusion. That the test was about teamwork. I mean, it would make sense if you look at it, Sasuke said. I believe you too, Sakura also added, and but everyone knew the only reason she was doing it was because Sass did it. Good, let's share a bit of our food with Nissan. I can see you're pretty hungry, Naruto said as she stared at Naruto, who kept his eyes on the food. Kakashi sensei said we shouldn't feed him, Sakura said in worry. I don't care, he's hungry, we have plenty of food and we already failed the thing to begin with, Nuko said as she held a bento for Naruto to take a bite out of, which the blonde did fine. Sakura grumbled. Well, I'll be your daughter is truly surprising, Kakashi said from a tree he was hiding in with Kushina. Yes, she is, Kushina said proudly. Well, might as well go and give them the good news, Kakashi said and schooled his face into that of mock anger before making his way to the newly formed Team 7. Kushina was proud of them. They haven't worked out their differences yet and it's still too early to make any solid observation, but at least it was a start. Naruto, his performance was horrible and that was something she would not sit idly by and leave be. He was her son and student now and she would not stand for poor performances from him. He deserved so much better and she was prepared to make sure he got everything he deserved. Naruto flopped on his couch. He was so tired. The test really took a lot out of him and that said a lot since he knew he had more stamina than anyone else his age. Nuko really came through. She figured out the true meaning of the test and he passed when he told Aam the ramen waitress didn't even waste any time when she jumped over the counter squealing and glomped him to the ground. He still blushed every time he thought of that. Tomorrow he would start with his very first mission and he was so excited. What would it be? Will he be saving a princess? Will he be helping out in a battle? Will he be taking care of some important person? So many thoughts ran through his head, but a knock on the door stopped him from thinking further. He was confused. Ever since he was announced as the fourth son, the landlord never came around anymore. In fact, the landlord said he could stay here for free. He was offered many other better apartments by other people and his parents too when they figured out that he wasn't coming to the Namazi estate, but he turned every one of them down. He didn't need their suck-up charity. The knocking continued. And now he was suspicious of who could be behind that door. Who is it? Naruto called. It's mommy, sweetie, said Kushina on the other side. Naruto sighed in Despair. He knew he couldn't get away from her since she was his new sensei. Kami, that was the only thing bad about his situation right now. He grudgingly got up from the couch and made his way to the door and opened up to see Kha holding Narumi. Hello Soi. Kina greeted warmly but didn't receive the same from her son. What can I do for Kush-sama? Naruto asked and saw his mother flinch a bit. Nissan. Narumi screamed gleefully when she saw Naruto and stretched her little hands trying to grab a hold of him. Hello Narumi, Naruto said indifferently. He didn't hate the girl, but he wasn't going to act like he usually did, especially since Kha was here. She wanted to see you so badly, so I decided to bring her along. I really hope you don't mind. Kushina said she had gotten rid of those horrible babysitters who let her baby run around without supervision and got in a woman named Aki. Aki loved Narumi and Narumi loved her back. Aki made sure Narumi wouldn't run away to random places, and Kha was glad for that. Every time she asked Narumi Rahul Sharma where she would go, Narumi would just say Nissan, and it made Kha wonder if Narumi spent her time away from home with Naruto, but she would quickly squash the idea she couldn't find him on many days. And she doubted Narumi could. Whatever. What do you want? Naruto got straight to the point. He wanted his mother gone as quick as possible. To be honest, I'm not here as your mother but as your John and sensei. Can I come in? Kushina said seriously. Naruto was confused, but he let the woman in nonetheless, so Nar prompted as they took their seats. I came here because I wanted to inform you of your performance today, Kushina said. What about it? Nar asked with a frown. Nar, from what Kakashi has told me, your performance was the worst of the team. Kushina said tch, it wasn't that bad. Naruto glared at Kushina. Soi, I'm not trying to demean you, but something like this could end up killing you in the future, Kha said unflinchingly. Well, I did train alone, you know, for all my life, Naruto said angrily. She didn't have the right to point out his faults even if she was his sensei. I know I went through records of your progress in the Ninja Academy, and after careful investigation it was discovered that you were sabotaged with your tests and were trained in the wrong styles of combat, Kha said. She too was getting angry just by thinking about it. Tell me something I don't know, Nar grumbled. After talking to men the HOK, it was agreed that you lacked heavily on many essential skills needed by a shinobi in order to survive on the battlefield. Kushina said, I don't need you tell me what I don't care about. Just wait and see. I'll be Hokage and then you will all think differently, Naruto said seriously. That's the reason I'm here, to help you with your goal. I have special permission from the Hokage himself to give you extra training due to lacking any proper education to begin with. Kushina said, I don't need your charity, Namazi. Naruto spat. He was getting tired of people coming to him and offering him things as a sign of their guilt and remorse. Stupid villagers, this isn't charity, Naruto. These are things you will need in council room. It was way too early in the morning for a council meeting, but Minato had demanded all council members to report immediately to the council room, and although some council members would have refused at first, the you that he sent to deliver the messages were dead serious on possible repercussions that would be implemented by the Hokage himself if they disobeyed his orders. So now here they were waiting for the Hokage to make his entrance into the packed room filled with shinobi and civilian council members alike. They were all frustrated due to three things. They had been waiting for a few hours for Minato to arrive. They were tired because Minato had demanded and with them late at night, and now it was early into the morning and they didn't like to be ordered around since they were more used to doing that themselves, whereas Hisu shouted in anger. She was so tired and didn't appreciate being made to wait for someone else. I'm not sure, but we have to be patient, Shikaku said tiredly. He felt like, lead, this is absolute nonsense. If he expects us to be here on time, then shouldn't he show the same courtesy? Danzo said irritably from his sitting position. Chill, man, I'm sure he had something to do. Chosa said Minato will hear from me about this. Kaharu said she didn't like this at all. They were starting to get really irritated when suddenly they were blinded with a yellow flash and Minato finally made his appearance. Finally, where have you been? We waited for hours, Homaru said in annoyance. I decided to have a nice deserved nap. I just woke up a few minutes ago, but dang, was that a good sleep, Minato said happily. Kushina came home and asked him to finally do something about these people, and he was only happy to agree with his wife. He purposefully made them wait for him for hours so he could annoy the crap out of them. He actually was asleep until now. How dare you? Who do you think you are to put us through this? Minato, Kaharu shouted in anger. He had the goal to pull a stunt like this. How dare I? Minato asked in mock surprise. They didn't even Know it, they were in deep trouble already and they were still acting like nothing ever happened. They were still acting like they didn't do anything wrong to his son, and boy was he going to milk this for everything it was worth. Before I answer your question, first things first, Anyo, Minato commanded, and not a moment sooner there was an Anyo agent behind each council member ready to attack at any moment. What is the meaning of this, Mino? Kaharu shouted in confusion. You do not call me by my name, you call me Hokage. Sama, do you hear me? Minato said. He was deadly serious now. What? Kaharu was really confused with all of this. Hok Sama, could I ask what's going on here? Inoichi asked when he noticed that everyone was too shocked to do or say anything. I'm glad you asked. Starting from today there will be a lot of changes around here, Minato said seriously. Like what? Chosa asked curiously. As from this day the village council is disbanded effective immediately, Minato said. There was an uproar of disagreement and demand for explanation. Just perfect silence, Minato shouted, and everyone shut their mouths. You can't do this, mi Hokage Sama. The village needs a council in order to function properly, and we all need to vote on a decision for it to be permitted. When it comes to village matters, Kaharu said evenly. You're wrong there, Kaharu. I am the Hokage. I run this village. You are just the council, the advisors to my cause in protecting this village and assisting anyone in need, but you have proven to me that you are not capable in looking after every villager, Minato said. Is this because of your son? You have to realize, Hokage, that some are out of our hands. The villagers acted on their own accord when it came to the boy, so we can't be held responsible for the villager mistakes. Bad move. Kaharu couldn't stop herself, and by the time she said the last word she already knew she just dug herself a bigger grave. I actually never thought I'd hear that, but I'm grateful. This information is all I need to prove your lack of action in my son's plight. Furthermore, it proves your incompetence. You will all be bought before Iki for information gathering just to find out if you were involved in my son's suffering as well as to determine what you really thought of him, and I'm pretty sure most of you thought on the same line as the villagers that Naruto was the demon brat. Minato sneered at all of them. You cannot do this. I am Hyuga head and I will not tolerate this behavior whatsoever. Hiashi finally spoke when he had enough of Minato. I can and I will. You want to know something else? I don't give a damn what any of you have to say. The moment you ignored or participated in my son's suffering, you made an enemy out of me, so you can complain all you want, but it won't change a damn thing, Minato said angrily. What will happen to us once Iki receives the information you require? Shikaku asked carefully. It all depends on the information. Just hope that I don't find out anything damaging for your sakes, Minato said indifferently. Let's get this over with. Danzo said he wanted to get out of here as fast as possible so Minato couldn't find out his secrets. He was about to get up, but a hand on his shoulder stopped him. He looked behind and saw two more Anyo ready for battle. Tisk tisk tisk. I've got a different punishment for you, my friend. Even when Minato said friend, the venom and disdain in his voice was still prominent. What do you mean? Danzo asked in shock. I mean you are being arrested, Minato said seriously. On what charges? Danzo demanded. Sarotoi has informed me that on many occasions you tried to make a weapon out of my son. After careful investigation by my Anu, it was also discovered that many of your root bases have been active, although it couldn't be discovered what was actually going on in them. You already know what I said about roots, so for disobeying orders you will be sent to Iki for interrogation, and then afterwards you will be put in a cell. Minato explained. This is blasphemy. You have no proof of anything and you can't just use your power on everyone just because of what happened to your son. You are letting your emotions control you, and it's safe to say that you are not fit to be Hokage. Danzo shouted in anger. Oh, by the way, don't even think about trying anything behind my back. I will kill you without mercy. Understood? Minato asked everyone in the vicinity and was proud to get nods. I'm sorry, Sarutoi Sama no said before grabbing Sarutoi's wrist. It's all right, Noik, you don't need to take Sarutoi. Minato said, for a second there I thought you wanted me to be put away and looked up for life. Sarutoi said, well, you're not my favorite person right now, but you have done so much for Naruto, so you're not as bad as everyone else. I want you to go to the TNI Tower and make sure that no ex-council member will be trying to bribe their way out of this. Minato said, I will do my best. Minato, and I'm sorry for not being there enough for Naruto in his time of need. What are going to do about the civilians? I hope it's nothing horrible, because as Hokage it is your job to protect this village and villagers within it. Killing them would make you unfit for this job. Sarutoi said, quote, ... he Hinata chuckled idly and Sarutoi was reminded of Naruto's pranking tendencies. This couldn't end well later. During the day this sucks, Naruto screamed in despair, annoying the hell out of everyone else. What did you think? D-rank mission meant you're on? Sakura asked annoyedly. I've had enough of you. Why do you always call him names? Naruto screamed angrily at Sakura. Sake that just stared ahead of him. This had nothing to do with him because he's a good for enough. Kushina screamed, stopping them in their tracks. This team seemed so off. Every single one of them had their own special talents and theoretically they should be a good team when combined, but that was not the case. They were mostly at each other's throats. They were painting a shed, which was the mission for a client. Naruto had immediately thought that since he was now a shinobi he'd be going on big missions, which wasn't the case. He had been complaining the whole day, and adding to the fact that it was a very hot day in Konoha, then some of them could be justified for being so grumpy. You guys need to relax and continue with your mission, Kakashi said while reading his book. What did I say about you reading that book in front of children? Kha hissed angrily, and Kakashi, it seemed that even the senses were no better. Well, I am being careful, Kakashi said, never noticing Kushina starting to fume even more. Kush was about to kill him but then decided against it. She didn't want to give these kids the wrong impression about her. She took deep breaths and calmed herself down a little bit. If you don't put that book away, I will slowly torture you by peeling your skin off with the blunt side of my sword, Kush whispered with a disturbing smile. Kakashi quickly complied. He knew when a woman was being serious. Kosha turned back to the bickering genin. That is enough out of all of you. You're a team now and you shouldn't constantly be at each other's throats. You will never improve on your skills if you keep doing this, and every other genin will be above you, Kushina said in a scolding manner. After some time they finally finished with their drank missions for the day, and Kina felt like it was time for them to go home and prepare for tomorrow. All right guys, you did well, but your teamwork needs to improve, otherwise there isn't a point to have Team 7, Kakashi said. Tomorrow we will start with training you on the different ways chakra is used and what it is useful for, Kosha said, and saw their eyes light up. Well, except for Sasuke and Naruto, the latter already knowing such things. Will I be training with you, Kakashi sensei? Naruto asked hopefully. Sorry Naruto, but I'll be in charge of teaching Sakura and Sasuke while Kush-sama teaches you in Naruto, Kakashi said with an ie smile. He would have preferred to train Sasuke alone, but Kha was having none of that. Sakura still needed a lot of work, and Kha made it clear to train the girl so she could match her teammates in skill and power. If it was possible. Naruto deflated a little bit, which didn't go unnoticed by Kina. Just great, good job guys, and we'll see you tomorrow. Naruto, don't forget your appointment for this afternoon, Kushina reminded the blonde. What is she talking about? Dabi Sake asked as they started walking away. None of your business, Tam, Naruto said irritably. Don't call Sasuke that, Sakura shouted, was about to bonk Naruto when a hand stopped her. Don't you dare, Naruto hissed in anger with slitted eyes. Sakura was getting on her last nerve. Just let her go, Naruto said. He just didn't care anymore. Naruto let up on her hold, but she continued to openly glare at the pink-haired banshee while they walked to their respective homes. Dobi Sake said after an awkward pause later in the afternoon. Here she was waiting for her son Kushina had been at training ground 7 waiting for any sign of Naruto. He was supposed to be here an hour ago, but there was no sign of him. And Kha wanted to give him the choice to come. He needed to come here on his own, or there was no point in trying to get him to trust her. She didn't doubt that he would come. She just knew he would be here sooner or later, so she waited patiently. Even if she was an impatient woman, if he didn't come, then she would feel really sad and hopeless. She really wanted to connect with him, and this was the best she could offer. Someone who didn't like her. Naruto was with her meditating. The little girl insisted on coming so she could help her Nis with his training, and even though Kha disagreed at first, she was happy to have brought Nuko along. Kushina's mood started to drop as the day continued to drift away. She had been waiting for 2 hours now. She just knew if she didn't see Naruto today that she would cry. She wouldn't blame him for not coming to training. Even if she had ordered him as his sensei, it would be what she deserved, since she felt like she was such a horrible person. Her ears picked up someone who was approaching them, and she looked on hopefully, only for her mood to drop again when she spotted one of her former students. K-Ondai Yuhi. Hello Kush Sama. Karanai greeted warmly and a little nervously when her former sensei came Back Karanai was so happy to have a back in her life, but that happiness was short-lived as soon as Kha found out what this village did to her son. She distanced herself from everyone, even Karanai. When Karanai was finally able to talk to Kushina, she was met with cold indifference from the mother, who asked if she did anything to help her son in Konoha, to which she replied very shame why that she hadn't done a thing ever since. Then Kha wanted nothing to do with her, saying she felt ashamed for even training her as her student. Kondai never let anything get the best of her, but Kha was different. She was her sensei, and Kondai really idolized the woman. For her bravery and kind heart, she meant everything to Kondai, so to hear her idol saying things like that really tore K and EY apart. She motioned for Kha to follow her into the woods, and Kha complied, albeit grudgingly. When they were in a secluded area, Kosha started. "What do you want?" Kushina asked coldly. K and I struggled not to flinch at the cold look she was receiving. I heard that you were giving extra lesson and I came to ask for your help," Kondai said carefully. "Why would I help you?" Kushina asked with slitted eyes. Kai's body shook a little bit, but she steeled her resolve. She stepped to the side, and Kha finally noticed the second person that was with Karanai. She had short lavender hair, light lavender eyes with no pupils. She was wearing a baggy jacket and looked extremely nervous. Kushina already knew who this girl was. Hell, her face looked just like Hatam did, and Kushina knew that this was Homie's child. Kai then bowed until her head touched the grass. "This is Hinata Hyuga. She has so much potential to be a great kunoichi, but it seems to be difficult for her to put all her effort into training and sparring. I have tried my best, but even I know it isn't enough. I beg you, Kina-sama, please train. Get out of my sight." Kushina cut her off in distaste. "The goal of this woman, please." "Kush-sama, I know you're angry at me, but please help Hinata, not for my sake but for hers. You are the best sensei that I have ever known. You're my idol, and I know you can help her. Please, I'm begging you," Karana pleaded as tears fell down her face and onto the grass. She also wanted to beg for forgiveness, but even she knew that now wasn't the right time for it. Hinata had to come first. "Leave," Kha said. Kurai stood up and her head dropped in despair. "Come, Hinata. Let's not anger Cash-sama any further," Kurai said sadly. She was about to lead Hinata out of the field when she was stopped. "Leave Hinata here," Kush ordered. Kai's head whipped to Kush in surprise. Kush looked indifferent. "Put Karanai knew better." She gave a grateful nod and left the field. Kushina mentally sighed in relief that was hard. She looked at Hinata, who was crying openly in front of her. This was very strange to her. She walked slowly to Hinata but was surprised when the girl screamed and backed away. "Please don't hurt me," Hinata sobbed as she covered her face with her arms. She saw the interaction between Karanai and Naruto's mother, and she truly feared for her life. Kushina's eyes softened when she heard that she knew all about Homie's death, and if Hinata was anything like her mother, kind, good-natured, then she had probably suffered at the hands of those cold and calculating Hyugas. Hinata didn't look like a kunoichi, just a frightened girl trying to shield herself from life in its harsh reality. Hinata was a nervous wreck. Her body was shaking like a leaf and she was bawling her eyes out. Kha couldn't take it anymore and quickly made her way to the little girl. Hinata was crying. She couldn't stop herself. She must have looked so pathetic and useless. Her father was right all along. At first she started crying because she feared Kha, but now she was crying for many other things: her weaknesses, her failures, her uselessness. How if she died, then nobody would miss her, nay, hated her. Her father wanted nothing to do with her, and she was even too shy to talk to her little sister. She was just a waste of space. She stiffened when she felt arms envelop her in a tight embrace, and when she looked, she saw Kushina kneeling and smiling softly at her. "It's okay, Hinata, let it out, let it all out," Kha said softly and placed Han's head on her shoulder. It didn't take long before Hinata held on to Ken, buried her face on shoulder and bailed her eyes out while Kha kept comforting her with soft and kind words. Hinata cried long and hard. Kha could already feel the tear stains on her shoulder, but she didn't let go. After some time, Han's crying died down and now the two were only hugging each other. "Do you feel better?" Kushina asked softly and received a nod from Hinata. "Kosha was going to help her in any way she could. I'll do my best, Hatami, I promise." Kushina thought in determination. "Thank you," Hinata whispered softly and embarrassingly with a blush on her face. "It's all right. I never planned on adding anyone to my training, but it wouldn't hurt to teach you. Would you like that?" Hinata, Kushina asked carefully. It took a long time, but Hinata did nod at her at First Hinata was scared of the woman, but after what she did her view of Kushina changed. She was a really nice lady. They made their way to the training ground and saw Naruto looking at them with surprise. Hinata, Naruto shouted then. Dashed to Hinata so she could give her a hug. Hinata said as she was enveloped again, but this time by her blonde friend. What are you doing here? Naruto asked. Confusedly, she will be joining us in our training, Kushina said, smiling warmly at Hinata. Really? Naruto asked hopefully. Why, yeah, Hinata said nervously. This is so awesome, Naruto said happily. Now they could spend more time together. Kushina looked around and saw that Naruto hadn't arrived yet, and now she was starting to lose hope. Nissan, you're late, Naruto screamed irritably. Kushina looked up and there was Naruto looking a bit sheepish. Haha, sorry, I kind of got carried away with the ramen, Naruto said nervously. For 2 hours? Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow. Yep, it was Iruka-sensei's treat today. So much ramen, Naruto said dreamily. He did feel a bit sorry for Iruka. The man's wallet would be empty for a while. San. Naruto shook her head. What, it was free ramen? Naruto said. You came? Kushina never felt so happy he came. He actually came. She was starting to feel like his dislike of her was so great that he wouldn't want to be anywhere near her. But here he was. This had to be a sign that there was a chance for them. Yeah, sorry for coming late, Cash-sama, Naruto said awkwardly. He had every intention of not coming at all, but a talk with Iruka made him see things from a different view. Iruka told him that change would never happen if he didn't fight for it. He also told him that he shouldn't dwell heavily on the past, because it could heavily affect his future. His mother was trying her best to help him in being a shinobi, and the least he could do was accept the training from a sensei to a student and not a mother to her son. Well, you better not be. Next time you hear me when we train and go on missions, you must refer to me as sensei. Understood? Kushina asked seriously, but the happiness was clearly visible. Yeah, sensei, Nar said awkwardly. He mentally rolled his eyes, calling his mother sensei felt so wrong somehow. Good, Kushina said cheerfully. It was a good start. So what are you guys doing here? Naruto asked. Naruto and Hinata were training with you, Nissan, Naruto said happily. Really? Even the weird girl? Naruto asked obliviously. Nissan, you shouldn't say things like that, Naruto said when she noticed Hana's head drop. What she is? Naruto said. Arg. Just shut up, Naruto shouted. What did I do? Naruto grumbled. Apologize to Hinata, Naruto said upset. But you say apologize. Fine, sorry. Hinata, you don't even mean it. Yes, I do. No, you don't. Nissan. Arg. Girls, what? Nothing. Kushina looked on at their conversation fondly. They were acting like a brother and sister. All right. She was surprised with how close they seemed. She knew that she couldn't be that close with Naruto since he still didn't like her, but even so she wouldn't stop being there for him even if he didn't like it. She couldn't help the warm feeling in her heart. It was slow and could take many years, but she was sure her family could come together. The training had started 30 minutes ago. Even now it seemed like it had only just begun. Kushina had made 2 Kage Bunshin to take care of, and Naruto, while she dealt with her son, her clones knew specifically what to teach the 2 girls, but Kha had to actually start from the basics with Naruto. She first did an affinity test and discovered that Naruto had a wind affinity, which was her speciality. He lacked so much knowledge, but she would not be deterred. She gave him scrolls that had different styles of tattoo, ninjutsu, kenjutsu, and dojutsu. Even if he didn't have one, it couldn't hurt to be prepared. She told him to make 4 clones to handle the scrolls while he stayed back with her. Why shouldn't I be the one trying to learn this? Naruto asked confusedly. He had figured that as long as his relationship with his mother was professional, then he could at least tolerate being in her presence. Well, that's just it. You are learning, Kha said while looking at the 3 clones who were by the trees and reading the scrolls. No, I'm not, my bunion, or Naruto said irritably. Well, Naruto, that's the secret to the Kage Bunshin, and that's why it's such a difficult jutsu to perform, Kushina said. I don't get it. To make a Kage Bunshin, you need a lot of chakra at your disposal as well as careful equal distribution between you and the clone. It's so hard to perform that it was labeled a John and rank jutsu. The technique has many advantages like beating up people, Naruto said pointedly. It isn't just about that. The jutsu has a memory link between the user and the clone, Kushina said. So does that mean we share memories? If anything, he was even more confused the more he tried to figure out where Kha was going with what she was saying. Technically, yes, when you summon a clone, it immediately has every single bit of your own memory, but when it performs tasks and duties, you will not be aware of your clones activities until the jutsu cancels, in which all the memories of the clone's activities would be brought to you. Kushina explained as straightforward as possible, so I can only get a Bunan's memory after it pops. I don't remember that happening when I fought Mizuki, Naruto said. Suspiciously, what was this woman up to? Was she trying to sabotage him? It is most likely due to the fact that your body and mind hadn't fully adjusted to the use of a jutsu as great and as complex as the cage fawn. Kush explained, so right now I'm learning that stuff. Naruto questioned while pointing to his clones who were still occupied with the scrolls. That's right, Kushina said happily as that it. Naruto questioned in surprise and annoyance. Here he was thinking that she was actually going to teach him something worthwhile, but all he was doing was reading well his clones were, but that wasn't the point. He felt like she was just trying to treat him like some stupid child that couldn't grasp what being a shinobi was, and that made him feel worthless. Naruto, he was actually surprised with how serious she sounded. When she said his name, you need to know the basics, no shortcuts, you need this so you have a foundation where you can build up more understanding on jutsu and survival skills a shinobi needs to utilize. Kush said seriously. She was all sensei right now and she had to admit that Naruto was very impatient. Naruto said, once your clones are done we will practice basic chakra usage and then I will teach you a jutsu. Kushina said it was only fair she would teach him everything she knew in time. It was his birthright. Naruto sighed again and then looked at his sister. Naruto was currently in a taijutsu battle with her mother's clone, dodging punches and kicks, giving counters in return. Although she was holding up her own, she knew her mother was still going easy on her. Their battle was fast, so fast that Naruto struggled to keep up with the two's movements. On occasion Naruto couldn't hold in his shock at watching his sister battle the bunch, and she was quick, agile, and very precise in her abilities. She was going toe to toe with a bunchin that was probably John and level, and she was actually holding up her own. Dust was even gathering beneath them due to their speeds alone. He didn't think ever saw anyone move that fast. They were literally blurring. She was good, she was very good. Naruto quickly jumped back to avoid a jab that was aimed at her ribs. You're improving, but you're still very open on your left side, the clone said, accessing any faults that she can see. Naruto quickly went through some hand seals and then stared at her opponent seriously. Futon Deepa, a fixed amount of concentrated wind charged at the bunch, but the clone quickly dodged the attack. The tree behind her wasn't so lucky, it was effortlessly cut in half. Naruto just couldn't take his eyes away from the battle. It was absolutely spectacular, even he could admit it to himself. Naruto seemed so powerful and he couldn't hide the burning envy he felt as he watched his sister fight. She was powerful in quick combinations that he knew would be great to have, but alas, he didn't even compare to her. He was getting depressed. The more he watched Nuko, she was so out of his league that he couldn't fight back the bitter feeling of disappointment. It was like rubbing salt into the wound, like he was being told that he could never have what she had, that he was truly the dead last. He looked down, he felt like absolute crap. He didn't even protest when a hand landed on his shoulder and gently squeezed it. He looked up and saw Kha looking at him with guilt and sorrow. If you ever want to be a great shinobi. They both looked back at the sparring match and saw Naruto making a small ball of spiraling chakra in her left hand, using her right hand to keep the left hand steady. If you ever want to be at her level, Naruto prepared herself. Follow my teachings to the letter and I promise you. Naruto charged at the clone. I swear that I will make you the greatest Hokage that had ever lived. Renin. There was a loud explosion and part of the ground was replaced by a small hole where Naruto aimed, but the clone had managed to move away in time. That is a promise of a lifetime. Naruto Kosha finished. It was a promise she was going to keep. She looked at him and noticed that he still looked depressed. She hesitated for a second and then gently held his face with both her hands and made him look into her eyes. Naruto is a prodigy, and so are you. I just know it, Kushina said lovingly. Naruto had to force himself not to waver his gaze. It was difficult to maintain with the way Cash was looking at him. He didn't even know how to reply to what she said. I know you'll be Hokage, I know you'll be the best. I will not stop teaching every single thing I know. I will not stop showing you how amazing you are. I have so much faith in you, but you have to put you faith in me as well. If you let me in, let me truly be your sensei, then I promise I will put my heart and soul into you. Training, Kha said with conviction. She wanted to be there's his mother as well, but even she knew that would not earn favor from him yet, so she would make do with what she had this time. Naruto did look away and removed himself from her grasp, much to Ka's silent chagrin. He didn't know how to feel about what Kha said, but he knew Not to miss an opportunity to be able to do the same things Naruto is capable of. He nodded his head. Excellent, Kushina said with a small smile. She could tell that he still didn't like her much, but she accepted it for what it was for now. Naruto had finished her training in her mother's bunch and had pops as she made her way to her brother. First she heard what her mother said to Naruto and she felt really guilty for showing off. She didn't mean to. Nissan, I'm sorry, Naro said softly. She almost sounded like a wounded puppy, like she was the victim. For what you were just training, Naruto said as evenly as possible, but Naruto wasn't stupid. She knew jealousy when she spotted it, but she understood. You will be better than me, Nissan, I'm sure of it, Naruto said reassuringly, then made her way to Hinata. That was some sparring match. You're improving, the clone that was teaching Hinata said. Thanks. So what are you guys doing? Nuko asked curiously. Well, I'm trying to improve her K-Gen. I cannot teach her anything that would interfere with her clan's Jukin. So far we're just sparring so I can analyze her flaws and weaknesses, the clone said while staring at the girl who was across the field. They were still in the middle of their own fight. Hinata had watched Naruto's sparring match. It was so shocking. The girl was a powerhouse and Hinata had never seen anything like it. She was also told by the clone to take her training seriously if she ever wanted to improve. They had been sparring for a while now and all Hinata had done was dodge the attacks and put her hands in front of her, possibly out of fear. The clone had let her get away with such tactics so far, but it seemed that her time was up. Do not lose focus. In battle you will get yourself killed, the clone said as she rushed to the surprised Hyuga girl. Hinata couldn't stop nor dodge the punch that came to her stomach, which sent her flying into the air and hitting the ground hard. She coughed and her body shook in obvious pain. Stand up, the clone ordered. Hinata couldn't follow as her body continued to shake. It felt like she was sparring with her father all over again. She really wanted to cry. You are a strong kunoichi, you can do this, Hinata. Stand up, the clone motivated. Hinata slowly moved her body. Her midsection was still in pain, and she didn't think she could stand after just one punch. She really was hopeless. She quickly took a glance and was surprised to notice Naruto actually looking at her, and she blushed. She didn't know what it was. She really couldn't put it into words, but the thought of her crush looking at her sent a huge surge into her body. She screwed her face into that of determination and slowly, albeit with difficulty, stood on her feet. Her legs were shaking and she struggled to dull the pain. We are done for the day, the clone said when she saw that Hinata could not take any more. She noticed the look Hinata sent past her, but she did not know what the girl was looking at since she didn't follow her gaze. Whatever it was, maybe a recollection of memory, she wasn't sure, but it helped Hinata find inner strength momentarily. Her legs gave out on her and Hinata fell, but she was grabbed and held before she even touched the ground, and when she looked up she noticed Ken's clone smiling at her. You have a lot to improve from, Hinata. You fear too much. And you're indecisive in your actions, and that is a huge disadvantage. You're afraid to attack me, and we really need to work on that. It's the only way to improve you skills, among other things. Never underestimate your enemy and get distracted. You would be uniting defeat if you did so, the clone said as she started healing the depressed Aris. But I am proud of you. When you stood up, it showed me how determined you are. It showed me how much you're willing to improve, no matter how much the pain. You did well today, Hinata. Well done, the clone said comfortingly. Hinata looked at the clone in shock. She didn't think she did that well. Hell, she thought she did horribly, like her father would say, but it seemed that Kha thought differently. She felt happy. She rarely got any praise, and it felt good not to be scolded or called weak for once. Well, you guys are free to go, the clone said, and then popped. Did you enjoy the training? Naruto asked curiously. She didn't do much, just a light spar in which she was easily defeated, but she couldn't help the warm feeling in her heart as she said, yes, I did. They made their way to the real Kosha. Although Hinata was using Naruto as some sort of shield from Naruto, but Naruto didn't mind. Kosha was still in the process of teaching Naruto the basics of chakra and its uses, so I've got hundreds of outlet spots in my body called chakra points, Naruto asked confusedly. Exactly, it is these specific points that allows the usage of chakra within your body. Every individual point affects your chakra flow. It is very important to keep this in mind when you are in battle, Kosha said seriously. Kasen, Hinata and I are finished, Naruto said tentatively. She didn't want to disrupt her brother's training. Good, you guys head home in Naruto Kushin called. Yes, Naruto said. Don't wait up for me, Kushina said, and she knew Naruto would understand. Right, good luck, Onisan, Naruto said. Thanks. Naruto muttered he wasn't angry at her and he hoped he didn't sound like a jerk earlier. He was caught off guard when Naruto smiled softly at him and said her goodbyes as she left with Hinata. You mean so much to her, you know she envies you greatly, Kushina said watching her daughter leave. Why would she envy me when she's got all the power, Naruto said, and tried to bite down the self-disappointment. She told me that you're stronger than her, not physically of course, but mentally. She told me that if she had the same upbringing as you did, then she would have snapped a long time ago. She envies you and your inner strength. You're her role model even before she met you, Kha said honestly. She doesn't know what I've been through, Naruto said matter of factly. True, but she can guess and she looks up to you for being so strong, Kushina said. Naruto was surprised to hear that. It sounded too weird to believe Naruto was stronger than him, and she thought if him as a role model. Her statement also reminded him of his past and he frowned. I never asked for a harsh life, Kushina flinched at that. I know so, Naruto. I can't even begin to tell how sorry I am, Kushina said regretfully. It doesn't matter how many times you apologize, sensei, it doesn't change what I've been through, what I've endured. You can't take away 12 years of hell with just some stupid apology. With stupid excuses you left me to rot. Naruto spat the last part. He was getting angry now. The more he thought about it, I know, Naruto, and I know it was unfair, but we honestly didn't leave you alone. We trusted you to be in the care of your godparents, but they ended up betraying as Kha said sadly. That's all you got? I've heard better. You left me in the hands of other people when you could have taken me with you to wherever the hell you went. No letters, nothing to tell me that you were even alive, and then all of a sudden you just come back and expect me to be loving son who had dreamed of meeting his parents one day. Fat chance, Naruto said angrily. Kushina paused when she registered something specific that Nar said and her eyes widened. Why didn't she remember it sooner? We did send you letters and presents every month for the past 12 years, Kushina said confusedly. Oh, and somehow they never got to me. Cut the crap and let's get back to training. Naruto gritted out and looked away from her. Kushina was borderline confused at this point. She and Minato had sent hundreds of letters and scrolls with presents to Konoha. Specifically, the letters never had their names on them, but they did highlight the fact they were all from Nar's parents. No further details on their identities so people wouldn't come after Naruto because of their anger towards Minato. They even had monthly replies from Jiraiya on Naruto's well-being and for them not to worry at all. They honestly thought they had made the right decision in trusting the two Sonin, but it was all a lie. So where did the presents go? Something was definitely a miss, and Kha had to figure out what the hell was happening around here. Hey boss, we're done, one of Naruto's bunch and said. Boss? Naruto raised an eyebrow. Right, you may leave now, Kha cut in. They needed to continue. The three clones simultaneously popped and Naruto was hit with so much information at once that he momentarily got dizzy and lost his balance, but he was caught gently. It's okay, Kushina said softly. She knew this would happen when the clones popped. He still wasn't used to the effects, so she continued to hold him steady until he got his wits back. Once he got his thoughts in process, he quickly moved away from Cash's hold. So have you learned anything? Kushina asked. Yeah, Naruto said while rubbing his head in discomfort. It was quite a rush. Good, now before I teach you a jutsu I need to first teach you tree and water walking. Are you ready? Kushina asked seriously. She would leave out the subject of the gifts and letters for now. I'm ready, Naruto said seriously. He was hoping to learn a jutsu already, but after getting so much information from his clones he actually wanted to know more of what Kha was going to teach him. From there, Kina started to teach him tree climbing in. And although it was a difficult start, he was able to get the hang of it pretty quickly. In a few hours, water walking was a different story altogether. However, where tree walking required concentration to attach one's feet to a tree, which was a solidified and stationary object, water walking required someone to put constant and even distribution of chakra to their feet in order to stay afloat on water, which was an object in constant motion. So far, Naruto was having difficulty in this exc because he didn't know how to keep an even amount of chakra in his footing. It was very late at night now, but the training was not finished yet. Again, Kush ordered when she saw him come out of the water after he fell inside for the 20th time. Huff, right, Naruto said tiredly as he made his way back to land and started the process all over again. Remember constant and even distribution, Kush reminded. Naruto stood near the pond and focused as much as he could on his feet. They started to glow. He closed his eyes to focus. Kushina wasn't holding Back in taking him to his very limits, she wasn't worried about exhausting him to the extent of missing missions team. 7 would be off the next day anyway. Naruto took a few steps forward, but he started to sink almost immediately. Focus Naruto, Kushina commanded. Naruto concentrated harder and felt his feet lift. When he looked down, he saw that his feet were actually on the surface of the water. I did it, Naruto said softly and in surprise when he noticed that he wasn't sinking. I did it, Naruto said gleefully. He felt really proud himself. Kushina had been analyzing Naruto's training since the beginning and she was surprised with many things. He had huge reserves of chakra if he could summon shadow clones. He had amazing stamina if he could last this long without succumbing to exhaustion. The more she looked at it, the more she realized that Naruto truly was a prodigy. It took Naruto days to tree and water walk while it took Naruto only a few hours. He had so much promise and she planned on capitalizing on that. So the jutsu Sensei, Naruto said tiredly. He was so exhausted that he was struggling to focus. You did well, Naruto, and you made me proud, but I don't think teaching you a new jutsu when you're so exhausted would be a good idea, Kushina said as she looked at his form. I'm ready, Naruto said confidently and tried his best to hide his fatigue. Well, all right, if you feel up to it, I'm going to be teaching you the Ranon. It takes a lot of practice and you won't get it the first. Kushina stopped talking when she saw Naruto faint from exhaustion. She was just buying herself some time so he could fall asleep. She knew a lot of jutsu and planned to teach him every one of them, but in all honesty she didn't know how to do the Ranon properly. It would be Minato's job to teach him that. She sighed and picked him up gently. She went to Naruto's apartment and put him to bed. She tucked him in and kissed him gently on the forehead. Good night, Soi, I love you, Kushina said softly and then left his apartment. Minato was in his bedroom, which was in the Nausea state, waiting for his wife to come home. Naruto had already told him that Kha said not to wait for her because she was training Naruto, but he didn't want to sleep until he saw her. He knew he couldn't see Nar. Yet the boy had enough problems trying to adjust to his mother and he would only complicate things further. He knew he was acting like a coward, but he was focusing more on the logical aspect of the situation instead of just manning up. Were you waiting for me to come home, Minachin? He was so out of it that he actually jerked in surprise and saw Kha, who was already in her nightgown. Yeah, sorry, Minato said sheepishly. Sigh, it's okay, I was actually hoping that you would be awake when I came home, Kushina said. Honestly, how did the day go? Minato asked. It went quite well and Naruto made a lot of progress. I'm going to start teaching him some jutsu, Kushina said. Already are sure that he's ready for such a step? Minato asked curiously. I'm positive you should have seen him today, so strong and so determined. He may not like me, but you can never stop a mother from being so proud. Kami, Minato, I love him so much that it hurts knowing that I made so many mistakes and that he had to suffer for it. It's so painful to look at him and know that I can never hold him in my arms. Kn, that he will never call me Kassen. Kha choked out as she sobbed, all those emotion coming to the surface, and the mother couldn't hide them. Kha-chan, we were both responsible, so don't be too hard on yourself. We will get through this. We'll get our son back. We will sort out this dreadful village for what they put him through. I may be Hokage, but after what they did to Naruto, I refuse to put these people first. Only my family deserves such, especially Naruto, Minato said as he wiped away his wife's tears. When will you teach him the Ranon? Kushina asked. When the time is right, Minato said. Careful, when will you go to him? Kushina asked with a frown. When the two of you have sorted things out first, Minato said. But men, I know what you're going to say, that I shouldn't wait, but hear me out first. You're his mother, you cared for him so much, and it was my idea to trust Jia and Tsunade in the first place. It was my decision to separate from him, and that wasn't fair to you or the children. You deserve this, to make a connection with him, to be there for him, and I would only disrupt the bonding by being involved, Minato said sadly. Minato stop talking crap, Kushina said to the surprised Hokage. We were both involved in the decision to leave him here. You're not the only one to blame for that, and you shouldn't distance yourself just because you think you'd be doing us a favor. Naruto needs both of us, not just me. He needs to know that we there for him no matter what. Even if he despises us, we need to show him that we love him to no end. Kha said. Yeah, I guess so, but not yet. I still have a lot to sort out in this village, Minato said with irritation at the thought of Konoha. Okay, I discovered something important today, Kushina said. What? Minato asked. Naruto had never received anything from us, not even a letter, Kushina said. Quote. How is that possible? Jiraiya told us Jiraiya was never here. When we left, remember all of his letters on Naruto's upbringing was alike. Kushina said. Right, I forgot about that. No wonder Naruto is mad at us after not getting any word from us until we came back here. That's just so horrible. We were so careless, Minato said, looking down. Find both of them, Koshia said seriously. What? Minato asked confusedly. Find Gia and Tsunade. I can't stand this anymore. Those two have a lot to answer for before I kill them, Kushina said with a scowl. Try not to kill them too quickly, Minato said. No promises, Kushina said seriously.